Hi everybody, hope you are doing well. Today I will explain the types of bonding. Bonding is something that link atoms together to form molecules or compounds. And every bond is between two atoms, okay? And the bond represent a pair of electrons, okay? The way that these two atoms link together depend on the type of bonding. Types of bonding can be covalent, ionic, or metallic. Covalent bond is a type of bond that depends on sharing, the idea of sharing. There is a mutual sharing of one pair of electrons between two atoms. While ionic, it comes from ion. It depends on the formation of positive and negative ion. Metallic bond is a hallmark for the metals. And we will talk in details about every type of these bonding. Covalent bond. Covalent bond, as mentioned, it depends on the idea of sharing. So every every uh, every one of the two linked atoms has an electron or need an electron. So as everyone needs one electron, both atoms will share one electron from each other. So at the end, the two atoms will share a pair of electrons, one from each atom. Let's consider hydrochloric acid. So hydrochloric acid is hydrogen and chlorine. Hydrogen and chlorine. Okay. Chlorine has 7 electrons at the outermost shell, while hydrogen has only 1 electron in its only shell. You know, hydrogen, the atomic number of hydrogen is 1, so it has only 1 shell, which has 1 electron. And usually every shell, every energy level, or every shell is full with 8 electrons except the first shell. So hydrogen has the first shell, which has 1 electron. So hydrogen will need only 1 more electron for its shell to be full. While chlorine, its outermost shell, has 7 electrons. So it needs 1 more electron to be full with 8 electrons. So both hydrogen and the chlorine need 1 electron to have their outermost shell full. Okay? Hydrogen couldn't lose its electron because it's very close to its nucleus. However, in other cases, hydrogen can lose this electron. But in that case, in the covalent bond, hydrogen will not need to lose the electron. What will happen is the two atoms will come close together and they will share the two electrons together. No one will give and the other will take. Both will give and both will take. Both will share the two electrons, one from hydrogen and one from chlorine. If we look at chlorine after sharing, we can see that chlorine now has 8 electrons. But from the hydrogen point of view, if we look at hydrogen, hydrogen now has 2 pairs of electron in its first shell, so it will be full. This is the idea of covalent bond. So covalent bond is based on sharing electrons, sharing a pair of electron, one from each atom. So now they become more stable. What is the diatomic molecule? Diatomic molecule is a molecule that has two similar atoms linked together and exist in nature in that way. Like hydrogen, for example, H2, it exists in nature as H2. Every two atoms, every two hydrogen atoms are bind together. So it's a diatomic molecules. Oxygen. Oxygen in nature is O2. So diatomic oxygen. Two oxygen atoms are linked together, nitrogen, N2, and so on. So diatomic atoms are molecules that contains two atoms. Okay. Covalent bonding is a chemical bonding formed by the sharing the idea of sharing of one or more pair of electrons between the two atoms. Take care here that it can be one or more pair of electrons between the two atoms. So if we have an atom X and an atom Y, whatever X is and whatever Y is, if X has one electron that needs to be paired, and Y has one electron that needs to be paired for each outermost level to be completed or to be full. So they will form a covalent bond between these two electrons. But if X needs two more electrons and Y needs two more electrons, the first two electrons will bind with a covalent bond, and the second two electrons will be bound by a second bond. So we have, in that case, if every atom needs two electrons, so we have two pairs of electrons. So every two electrons will form a bond. So in that case, this is a double bond. This is called a double bond. Sometimes there is a need to share three pairs of electrons, and that case will be triple bond. So this is an example of the covalent bonding in diatomic molecules, like hydrogen. Every hydrogen atom needs an extra electron to be full. So they are bound together, forming the diatomic hydrogen molecule. This is the single bond. Okay. Another diatomic molecule is the chlorine. Okay. H-chlorine needs one more electron to have its outermost shell full. So that one, this chlorine will share an electron from the other chlorine atom, and the other chlorine atom will share an electron from the first one. So the two electrons will be shared between the two chlorines, forming a bond, a single bond, a single covalent bond. Okay? So every pair of electrons will form one single bond. The first example that we explained, but it explained in another way, hydrogen and the chlorine, HCl, everyone will share an electron with the other. Here is other forms of the covalent bonds where more than one pair of electrons are shared. So this is a double bond, and this is a triple bond. Okay, oxygen atomic number of oxygen is 8. So the electron configuration of oxygen will be 2 and 6. So the outermost shell of oxygen will have 6 electrons. For the outer shell of oxygen to be full, it needs two more electrons to reach to the octet or the 8 electrons in the outermost shell. And that's why usually oxygen exists in nature as diatomic atom and not diatomic molecule. Okay. So each atom has 6 in the outer shell. The first atom, the electron of the first atom is represented as the pluses, the plus signs, and the electrons of the other oxygen is are represented as dots. So they come close together. They will share the two pairs of electron, 2 from each atom, forming 2 bonds. Remember that every pair will form 1 bond. This is the first pair. And the other pair of electrons will form the other bond. Forming 2 covalent bonds. As you can see, and this is the oxygen gas, O2. Nitrogen is another way of bonding between atoms, where it's also covalent, which depends on the idea of sharing between a pair or more of electrons. But nitrogen form a triple bond because the atomic number of nitrogen is 7. If you look at the periodic table, the atomic number of nitrogen is 7, so the electron configuration is 2 and 5. The first shell will have 2 electrons, and that will be full because, as you know, the first shell is full with only 2 electrons, and all the other shells are considered full if they have 8 electrons. So for this 5 electrons to be full, it requires 3 more electrons. Okay, so every nitrogen atom will require 3 more electrons to be for its outermost shell to be full. Remember that every atom has its own electrons represented in either plus or dots, just for explanation. So, in nature, nitrogen gas exists in the form of diatomic nitrogen, N2. Okay? So what happened? What happened is that every nitrogen atom shares three electrons with the other. So three electrons from the first nitrogen and three electrons from the second nitrogen. So we have now three pairs of electrons. Every pair will form one bond, okay, or a single bond. At the end, you will have triple bond in the nitrogen gas between every two atoms of nitrogen. And as you can see, no one of them take and the other give. No, every one will give and take. Both of them will share. What are the properties of covalent bond? As it is formed by sharing a pair of electrons between two atoms, this sharing will lead the configuration of every atom to reach to the configuration, the electron of configuration of the noble gas, of the nearest noble gas. Okay, as you know, the noble gases are in the last column in the periodic table, and their outermost shell is full with 8 electrons, except helium, which is full with only 2 electrons. Each atom contributes 1 electron to each bond. So each bond is formed by contribution between two atoms, and each atom contributes 1 electron. Okay, molecules are formed from atoms linked by covalent bond. So molecules are formed by atoms by covalent bond, while compounds can formed by ionic bonds, which we will talk about it later. The physical properties of simple covalent bond and why this property exists. First, covalent molecules are usually liquids or gases. They usually exist in the form of liquids or gases at room temperature, and they have low melting point and low boiling point. Why? What is the reason for that? The reason is that they are made of simple covalent bond, and this bond has lead to weak intermolecular forces between molecules. So between the molecules, there are weak intermolecular forces. Okay, so to move the molecules apart from each other, we don't need much energy. There is very low energy needed to move them away from each other. The covalent compounds don't conduct electricity. Why? Because for electric current to be moved from a point to another point, there should be free electrons or ions between these points. As the covalent bond has no free electrons and no ions are formed, so there is no way to carry electric current. I will leave you this homework. I hope you will stop the video, okay, and take a screenshot of this homework. This will evaluate your understanding of the covalent bond. Okay, so please don't neglect this homework. This is a part of your study, just to evaluate whether you understand that or not. Uh, in the red rectangle down here, you will find these are keywords that everyone will be used to fill in one of the blank spaces. Okay, I expect you to take a shot of this homework and then to leave the answer of the blank spaces in the comments down below. Just number them as 1, 2, 3, or ABC. Blank space number 1, the solution is this word. Blank space number 2, the solution is that word, and so on. Okay, this is the homework for the covalent bond. Okay, I will stop here. Hope I will see your homework in the comments down below. If you have any question, any advice, any inquiry, just leave it in the comments down below and don't hesitate to do that. I'll I welcome anything that you ask about. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Bye bye.